until
This
recognized by
conference will
staff to
now
make
be
a comment.
recorded.
If anyone is having a technical issue, use either the chat box on your screen or email jjwitten@mvpc.org and staff will assist you. To make a comment, participants should open the chat feature and send a message saying they would like to speak. When submitting a comment, please be sure to provide your name and email address if you would like MassDOT to provide an official response. Questions and comments will either be addressed by the presenter or read aloud and responded to at a later date. And if you'd like, for more information about the CIP and to submit further comments, please visit mass.gov/CIP. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. And then I'll pass it along to Tony for a few words.
Sure. Very good. Thank you very much, Cassandra. Yes, as Cassandra mentioned, I am Tony Komornick, Transportation Program Manager for the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, and we serve as the transportation planning staff for the Merrimack Valley MPO, which covers 15 cities and towns in the northeast corner of Massachusetts. We extend from basically Andover and Methuen to the west, across to the Atlantic Ocean, and Salisbury down to Rowley. As an MPO, we are given the responsibility of developing what's called the Transportation Improvement Program, amongst other documents that are required under federal transportation planning legislation. The TIP is a document that's somewhat similar to the CIP, and I believe that Cassandra is going to go into a little more detail later in terms of how these two documents sort of interrelate with each other. There are some subtle differences, and I'm very interested in the CIP because it does consider a larger universe of projects than MPOs around the state typically deal with. There are other subtle differences to that, but in terms of it being more of a spending plan than a programming document, but still it provides a wealth of information on statewide spending that will impact what I do, which is look at the federal spending that needs to be programmed in our region, and that's true across the state. So with that, I'll turn things back over to Cassandra, and she can carry on.
Awesome, thank you so much. And you can go ahead and go to the next slide. And if I could also just ask, if you happen to not be muted and you're not speaking, it would be very helpful if you could mute yourself, just so we could eliminate any background noise and try to make the audio connection as clear as we can. Thank you. So the first slide I want to show you tonight is the CIP online comment tool. So for those of you that have been following the CIP over the last few years, this will look familiar. And for those that haven't, this is the Capital Investment Plan comment tool, which you can find at the address listed here. You can use the tool to search by division, municipality, MPO, project, cost, things like that. There's also a new like feature that was added this year in case you would like to show support for a project without any additional context. So to leave a comment using this tool, just fill out the fields under the leave a comment section and hit submit comment. Of course, public comments are being accepted tonight at the end of this meeting, but this is a great way to explore and comment on specific projects on your own time. So I wanted to point it out here at the beginning. Comments can also be submitted via mail or email if you prefer, but either way, rest assured that no matter which way you choose to engage, your comment will be captured and addressed accordingly by the appropriate parties. And all comments will be accepted through June 1st. Next slide, please. So this is a brief overview of tonight's presentation. First, we are going to look at how the CIP was built, what it entails, and what it looks like this year, as well as some specifics to Northern Massachusetts. Then we will discuss how to explore the CIP document itself in our online format. And then finally, we want to know what you think of all this by taking some time for a public comment. Next slide. So this year's CIP is a bit different than the past 4 CIPs that we've developed. First off, it's important to note that the state fiscal year on which the CIP is built begins July 1st of 2020 and it runs through June 30th of 2021. So as you may be aware, this year was intended to be the last of a 5-year rolling update CIP, which began with the 2017 to 2021 CIP. That was the first year where all MassDOT divisions and the MBTA worked to form one unified CIP. However, in response to the current COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting reevaluation of available federal and non-federal funding sources, the most effective approach for MassDOT this year is to do a 1-year fiscal year 2021 maintenance of effort CIP. And when I say maintenance of effort, the best way to think about this is to remember that the CIP is an expenditure document, not an obligations document. So most of the projects that you will see in the CIP are already underway, already advertised, or grants have already been awarded. And so that's why it's a maintenance of effort. It's also consistent with year 2021 of last year's CIP, with the exception that there were some project delivery changes that resulted in projects not showing expenditure for fiscal year 2021. And also similar to previous years, a large portion of spending goes towards maintaining and modernizing our current assets. However, it does continue with targeted investments underway that will increase the capacity of the network, such as the Green Line Extension, South Coast Rail, or those that will provide access to new transportation modes like bicycle and pedestrian investments. We will, of course, be developing another 5-year plan that will be a reset, where we will be reevaluating current priorities and programs set forth in 2017. Now, that process is scheduled to begin in early fall. And of course, we look forward to once again engaging the public and our local and regional partners in that process. Next slide, please. Thank you. In addition to the annual capital investment plan that MassDOT and the T develops, the Commonwealth and its 13 regional partners and 15 RTAs through the MPOs are federally required to develop a state transportation improvement program, also called a STIP. Our process currently aligns the development of the SIP and the STIP so that priorities, programs, and projects in the STIP are also captured in the CIP each year. And for the 4th straight year, both the CIP and the STIP were released on the same day and are both receiving public comments this year through June 1st. Now, the main difference between the CIP and the STIP is that the CIP is a state requirement that includes all sources and uses from all MassDOT divisions. So that includes the MBTA, Rail and Transit, Aeronautics, and the Registry of Motor Vehicles. While the STIP is a federal requirement for highway and transit projects. And while we developed a 1-year CIP this year, we still proceeded with developing a 5-year STIP based on projections we received from our federal partners beyond the last year of the current federal authorization bill, which some of you may know as the FAST Act. The FAST Act concludes in federal fiscal year 2020, so we worked with our federal partners to make reasonable assumptions of apportionments beyond that to develop the STIP. So because of this, if you're curious about a federal aid project that is beyond 2021 and therefore is not in this year's CIP, you can look for it in the STIP this year. Next slide. And consistent with last year's CIP, this year's CIP continues to invest in the Commonwealth's assets, including bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, as well as our complete streets and municipal bridge programs. Overall, the CIP includes $3.7 billion in spending, split as you can see here between MassDOT and the T. And to reiterate what I said earlier, we will be revisiting a 5-year plan later in 2020 once we have a more accurate financial picture. Thank you. So let's get into some specifics of some important investments of the T this year. Then there are a lot. We have improvements to existing commuter rail and subway lines, investments to improve the bus system, including new hybrid buses and overhaul the new flyer buses, as well as investments in bus maintenance facilities, accessibility improvements, improvements to service delivery through fare transformation, and new bi-level commuter rail coaches to expand seating capacity on the commuter rail network. And we also have continued investments in the Green Line for the Green Line Extension and Green Line Transformation, as well as South Coast Rail. So now let's focus a little bit on municipal investments. And again, I want to stress the importance of partnerships that MassDOT and the MBTA have with our regional and local partners to deliver this plan. We're continuing investments in some of our most popular non-federal aid programs, such as Complete Streets and Municipal Bridge, but we do capture larger scope projects that are municipally driven through the State Transportation Improvement Program, the STIP process, through our metropolitan planning organizations. Oh, go back.
Oh.
That's all right. We're pretty unique in the Commonwealth in that we have 13 MPO and TPO boards who work with municipalities on project initiation, development, and programming with MassDOT oversight of the project delivery process. So a large portion of the projects that we do program in the STIP are municipally driven, meaning that they're initiated by the municipalities, design is paid for by the proponent, and the Commonwealth provides the non-federal match to the federal aid construction dollars for projects programmed in the STIP. Now, next slide, please. Thank you. So the projects you see on this page are specific to the northern region of Massachusetts, and they're very similar to what you have seen last year for fiscal year 2021 in the CIP. I want to note that these are not the total costs of the projects. These are the spend of the projects only in fiscal year 2021. So as an example, the first one we have on the list, the bridge replacement of I-495 over the Merrimack River in Haverhill, has a total construction project cost of about $90.7 million. However, $24.7 million is projected to be spent on project delivery in 2021. So the same is true for all the other projects listed here, whether they're roadway or bridge projects, MBTA, RTA, they're all expenditure. So that's just something to keep in mind as you're exploring this year's CIP. This slide shows the overall breakdown of investments in the 2021 CIP by priority and by division. The path set forward by the 2017 to 2021 CIP continues this year with setting priorities, which, as you can see here, are reliability, modernization, and expansion. The vast majority of the spend in the CIP is focused on maintaining and modernizing our assets, with about 73% of investments in those two priorities. The remainder is an expansion, which entails South Coast Rail and the Green Line extension and bike and pedestrian improvements. While the overall spend is roughly the same as last year at approximately $3.7 billion, one of the key differences between this year's 21 spend and last year's is a shift from expansion to reliability, largely due to expansion projects such as the Green Line extension spend being ahead of schedule. And you'll also note that, unsurprisingly, a large portion of the spend is in the highway division and the MBTA. So this is roughly the process for developing the fiscal year 2021 CIP. I can say that while this slide starts in January, the process tends to begin even before that, sometimes as early as November, when we begin discussing financial projections with our state partners at the Office of Administration and Finance and our federal partners at the Federal Highway Division Office and Federal Transit Regional Office in Cambridge. Once we've established these financial projections, the divisions then revisit their scoring criteria and reevaluate their program sizes. Subsequent to that, each division goes through a readiness process in which they evaluate project delivery schedules based on the previous CIP and reevaluate for the current CIP. After this, there's some refining of the program budgets once again, and ultimately each division selects their projects for the draft CIP. I also want to note that while the divisions are doing this, the MPOs are also going through a similar process at their board meetings, releasing their own draft CIPs in April for endorsement in May, alongside the release of the CIP in early May and eventual board adoption in June. So between the May CIP release and the June approval, we're addressing public comment and making project changes based on additional decisions by the MPO boards for incorporation into the final CIP in June. I think you can go to the next slide. There we go. So let's go through how you actually explore the CIP and how you participate in the public engagement process. One way is what you're doing right now, which is participating in our online virtual public meetings, of which we had 6 this year. Of the 6 that are being hosted throughout the Commonwealth, tonight is the last, as you can see. And we are accepting public comments tonight and through our online engagement tool through June 1st. So the CIP document itself lives online and allows you to scroll through the text and see it on the left as relevant graphics and information appear on the right. So it's pretty cool, it's pretty interactive, and you can even filter the graphics to suit what you're looking for, which is nice if you're interested in a particular type of investment. Awesome, sorry, I think I got a little mixed up on the slides. That's fine though, we can keep going. Of course, the online comment tool is a great way to engage with the CIP. This slide provides you a direct link to the comment tool, so you can copy it now or just access it directly from the presentation, which will be posted online. And I've already discussed the features of this tool in the beginning of this meeting, but if you have any additional questions on how to use it or how to comment, we'd be happy to assist you in any way we can. One more, there we go. And so finally, what's the role of the public and why are we here tonight, right? We encourage you to participate because your comments and feedback hold weight. So please engage your local officials, your regional planning agencies, neighbors, friends, colleagues, on your priorities for transportation investments, and we'd be happy to hear your feedback. Please keep in mind, again, that this is a one-year maintenance of effort CIP. So if you're interested in a project that was programmed in an outer year with federal aid, I would just ask that you refer to the STIP this year. So these are just showing the virtual public meetings we have this year. Like I said, we had 6. You can go to the next slide. We are at our last one today. And next slide. Perfect. So in closing, I'd like to thank everyone for allowing me the opportunity to present the fiscal year 2021 CIP for the Northern Massachusetts region. And I look forward to any comments or questions that you may have tonight. As a reminder, just use the chat feature, which is either on the bottom of your screen or the right of your screen. If you'd like to make a comment, just drop a comment in the chat and let us know you'd like to speak. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this meeting is being recorded and all questions and comments are being captured so that they may be later addressed by the appropriate parties. If you'd like to have a response to your question or comment, just make sure that you say your name and email for us as well so we know how to get a hold of you. So with that, if we have any elected officials on the call tonight, I would like to invite them to speak first if they'd like to. So go ahead and drop a comment in the chat box if you'd like to speak. I believe I saw Senator Feingold on the line. If you'd like to speak, Senator, you're welcome to do so now. Any other elected officials on the call tonight that would like to speak? All right, I just want to make sure people are able to unmute themselves if they want to, right, Tony? Or do you need to do it for them?
Yes, when I mute all, it's a soft mute, and
Okay.
you can unmute yourself.
Okay, good. I just want to make sure we're not skipping over anyone who wants to speak. Okay, well, with that, I will open the floor to members of the public if anyone on the call would like to speak. I see Rob Wilson in the chat. He says, wait. Rob, would you like to speak? Or do you want to speak or do you want to wait? You can speak if you want.
It was the quickest thing I could think of to type. No, I just want to say, well, since we need to have public comment, I would be the public comment. So I just want to thank, I think everybody did done a lot of hard work through the process, and I know there's a lot of work that goes on behind the scenes, and this plan is huge, and I just want to thank everybody for all the work and completing it. Thanks.
Thank you, Rob. We appreciate that a lot. Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I'll say something. I mentioned a little earlier that it's very important for me to see just what type of statewide capital spending is being programmed, not only in our region but in the Boston region as well, because of our strong ties to the Boston region. But as I mentioned earlier, we are responsible as an MPO for looking at the condition of the federal aid transportation network in the region and our transit services as well. But those services don't function in a vacuum. You mentioned in your presentation the importance of the Chapter 90 program, which a lot of that money goes to maintaining federal aid roadways. So there's that interrelationship there. There's the Complete Streets program, which communities have embraced widely in our region, that are serving to greatly improve bicycle and pedestrian transportation in the valley, and we should see the fruits of that really accelerate in the next few years. So this is a very important document. It provides a more comprehensive look at capital spending in the Commonwealth than is typically provided through a transportation improvement program or a STIP. And I always am very impressed at the work that MassDOT is able to carry out in looking at the large number of projects that they have to consider and evaluate, and then make into a document that's physically constrained. So congratulations.
Thank you so much for that. We appreciate that a lot. Anybody else like to make a comment or ask a question tonight? And of course, if you don't want to make a comment tonight, we do have our online comment tool that I explained a couple times, and we are accepting comments through June 1st, which is next Monday. Otherwise, if I'm not seeing any other requests to make a comment, I think we can wrap up here. Thank you again, Tony, for hosting us tonight. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everyone who attended. Have a good night.
Well, thank you for your presentation. It was very good.
Thank you so much. Bye,
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.